Joining us now, we have Doctors Mark Miodownik and Edda Aradóttir. Thanks for being with us today. Now, Mark, you are the host. Edda, you are one of the panelists for the Materials Needs for Energy Sustainability by 2050 Forum. Tell me a little bit about the event. What's the format and what are some of the topics that you'll both be discussing?
So we've got three panelists. Edda is one of them. We also have Klaus and Lisa, who are taking different angles on the idea of what practical solutions, in the next 10, 20 years can we take as a community of material scientists to actually stop climate change. So this is really about, on the ground, what stuff do we all really have to do? And so we've asked our panelists to say, look,
no small task
if you
to ask of your panelists.
change your life tomorrow, companies change what you're doing tomorrow, what would it be? And Edda,
take it away from there.
I'm really looking forward to this discussion. I come from the sort of applied end of the discussion we'll be having, working for an energy company which has actually been very active in applying and further developing some of the solutions that are available. There are so many solutions available to climate change, but somehow something is keeping us back from really jumping in and applying them at the large scale that we need. So I think this is one of the discussions we will be taking. How can we overcome these obstacles and ensure that not just the very few of, for example, the energy companies or the heavy industries are doing something about their emissions, but the really big players as well.
Now, the title specifically identifies 2050 as the goal date. Why is that?
That's been a goal set for a few years to kind of give people a horizon that seemed realistic for whole-scale change of industries and the ways in which we organize our societies around how we emit CO2. But actually, the recent reports suggest we need to act much quicker than that. So it's a very urgent problem. So we actually are talking about what would we do in the next decade. 2025 is actually a really important date for us as well. The other thing to say about this panel discussion is that it's very interactive with the audience. We want the audience to be involved. We've got panelists.
My next question.
Oh dear. Okay, sorry. Okay, go on.
No. So how is it going to be interactive?
So we've got these online tools which allow us to let the audience vote on certain questions, which we're going to hit them with. So we'll have online polling, but we're also going to let the audience ask us questions and questions to the panel. And I particularly think it's going to be interesting to kind of balance the individual actions, someone changing their life, those sort of things, which I'm sure the audience will be full of people who are ready for that. To how do we actually change the shareholders of these companies? How do we change their behavior? How do we change the CEO's behavior? Because they're really important players in this, and yet, there are some big forces pushing them in other directions.
That is the $64,000 question. So how do we change that mindset?
As I mentioned before, for us to be successful in significantly changing the way of things, limiting climate change rapidly, it's really getting the politicians and of course the big polluters. There are just about 100 companies responsible for 70% of all emissions in the last 100 years. So these are the sort of people we really need to focus on. But saying that, that's a challenge. But what we can do as individuals, of course, helps and puts the pressure on the other different players that we really need to start acting rapidly.
How does materials research science fit into all this then?
Well, of course, materials production is one of the big CO2 emitters for a start. So on the one hand, we've got steel production, aluminium production, silicon production. These are big emitters.
Yeah.
So making those more efficient is one thing. But also, photovoltaics, thermal energy, all these things are materials technologies too. So there's a huge community here who already do this as their day job. But there's another aspect which we want to emphasize in this talk, which is, there's a lot of people who, in fact, if you change the way a product is made, like this mug, right, or this chair, or this table, or a car, the manufacturing techniques, they embody a lot of CO2 emissions in them. So in fact, pretty much everyone in this conference has due to their day-to-day work, will have some angle on this topic, which we think they can contribute to the discussion.
Now, materials science, by definition, is a multidisciplinary field. I think you were speaking to that. How do you engage research scientists to broaden their collaborations even further, including socio and economic development?
I think the key to that is to not only focus on your part of the chain. So that's why an event like this, for example, is very important.
Sure.
Bringing the different players in the overall chain together, because for the solutions that are available to be applied at a large scale, it's very important that the public accepts them, and that they are as economically viable as possible. And therefore, it's important to have the different players. I mean, the theoretical researchers doing the sort of very first research, then it's the more applied version of that. And at the end, of course, the material scientists working for the large companies that eventually and hopefully rapidly will take on the solution. So I think getting this dialogue more active so that we can sort of jointly discuss all the different aspects is very important. So hopefully we can do that.
Let's
as
hope
well.
so. Dr. Mark Miodownik and Dr. Edda Aradóttir, thanks for being with us. Enjoy Boston.